Okie dokie. I'm going to make a little how-to tutorial on the Trader Challenge log, and I'm going to try and address some of the things that I think people are going to run into. A couple of them is a workflow. So let me just itemize these things out, and we'll think about them first, and I'll make a couple notes for myself as we go through. The very first thing I think that we're going to deal with that'll be a challenge for most people is workflow. So let's just deal with workflow first of all. Number one, you're absorbing a new process that you're either you're not doing or you're doing differently. So first things first, what I've provided is not magic, but it is systematic. So in one way, it can be very exciting because it seems to have a lot of detail. But unless you understand how to use that detail and you take the time it takes to acclimate yourself to get the maximum benefit from it, you're basically taking a shortcut. So what that means is over the next couple of days, next week or two, take the time to build a workflow that works for you. Now, these tools that I've given you are good at one thing: maintaining context and historical narrative for milestone development. Context and historical narrative for milestone development. If you take your trader log for the last year and upload it to TraderView, you will get the same exact thing. The same exact thing. A data scientist like myself could understand your trading plan just from that, but I doubt you can. So what this is meant to do is provide life to the data. It is the meta narrative on top of your data. Your workflow is going to be what is going to help you instruct yourself as to what is working for you and what is not. And it'll create new observations that you can diagnose and build another workflow to interact with. You may find a new setup, but you'll find a contextual, rational, and logical way to actually break that down. The second thing I just talked about, which is data model. So here's an important thing. A data model is only useful if you understand how to interrogate it. Okay? So tools like TraderView, Journalytics, and the others, they're building best fit models, tagging systems and otherwise, formulas and templates to give you a data model because they basically know that you're not going to be able to build one yourself. The problem with all of this is that if you didn't build the data model yourself and you're not completely intimate and familiar with what the data model should tell you, you will never track the information you need to track to tell you whether or not you're being successful. This is something that traders go through all the time. They'll go through a drawdown of 6 losses and they'll go, oh crap, I'm a bad trader. Maybe 10 losses. Oh crap, I'm a bad trader. But because their data model doesn't tell them whether or not that's reasonable or not, and they've got no confidence with it, they panic and they change systems. So what this does is it allows you to build a meta narrative while you're forming your data model. Sort of like newsflash, and I'm sorry to pop people's balloon. If you're going to be a trader, you're going to need a data model, and you're going to need to build it yourself. No one can build it for you. They can give you ideas. They can stimulate you, but you have to build that. You have to understand how you interact with the market and how the market interacts with you and your plan. Otherwise, it's just another form of guessing. And you guys kind of like, if you've been around a little bit with me, you know what I think about guessing. Okay, last thing is what parts of this are most valuable and what are least valuable. Like, where should you spend your time? And like, if there's one thing you're going to do in a day, and that's it, to make sure that you're always making forward progress, what should you do? And we'll cover that here in just a second. So let me show you how I do it. I'm going to bring the template over, or yeah, there we go. Okay. So look at this. First things first, I'll tell you what as soon as I open this, I go collapse all. I want to see the whole thing. And that helps me because when I look at this table of contents, it reminds me of the steps I actually have to go through in order to complete all of my work, my pre-work, my trade work, and my homework. So first of all, what you're seeing is a template. And the template is all the things I have to do in a day. So the first thing I do is I copy all of those. And I click Control Copy, and I come down here, I say Add Section, and I go January 16th, 2023. I know what you're thinking immediately. You're going, wow, this is a duplication of effort. I already have Notion. I already have TraderView. I already have. Yes, I agree with you. You do have all of those things. You do have all of those things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Why this is beneficial is simply because there is not a tool yet, hint, there is not a tool yet that allows you to visually collaborate with yourself, maintaining that meta narrative, while at the same time being able to track the data necessary to see progress. Now, I don't think that you need to see your exact execution data, your stop location. You need very precious few, and a trader friend of mine taught me this, you need precious few statistics in your trading to actually see whether or not you're succeeding or you're failing. Very, very few pieces of information, but we tend to get focused on the Excel spreadsheets, and that's understandable. So I have boiled that down to basically creating the context of, or establishing my view of the market based on a context view. So I have 3 views. There's a high time frame view, which may influence whether or not in general we should be buying or selling. We have a context view, which dictates whether or not I should buy or sell specifically. And then I have my execution view, which is the thing that gives me the data that tells me to push the button. Okay? So in this, I've already done all of my high time frame analysis outside of PowerPoint. I've done that in Notion. I use Notion. I'm a big Notion believer. So I do that here, or do that there. And then here, all I'm doing is I'm capturing the 60-minute levels, which is my context time frame here, and that's it. I go to the sheet. I go to the charts, and boom, I use Epic Pen. Right click, change picture from this clipboard. Boom, and then from there I mark it up, and I go, okay, that's interesting. I like that. I've got a level here. That level's important. That level's important. And then I'll mark it up and I'll say, here's what that level is. If you're not careful, this is the one annoying thing about PowerPoint, is that it can be a little finicky. Level. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to grab stuff, whatever, but you'll get used to that. Okay. So I mark that up and then I write them out. Now, do I need to write out everything? No, detail is not your friend here. Okay, you need to keep it summary level, because all you're looking to do is maintain a narrative, a mental table of contents that you can refer to in 30 days, so that you can see whether or not your plan is actually making progress. That's what you really care about. So then I fill that out and I have that. Now, I've largely built my context and my plan should flow from there. As I interact on the day, I've already picked out for myself, I'm going to say, well, here's what happened at 8:30, here's what happened at 9:30, here's what happened at 10 a.m. plus 1:30 and 3, and then any consequential details throughout that. And I just work off of this. This is sitting up in the background, and I'll just write it out. And I'll say, okay, 8:30, we had stop run and reverse. And I go, that's interesting. Because now I can come back to my context and I can say, where was that stop run and reverse? It was at a previous low. I wonder how many times that happens. Turns out twice a week. Boom. Or once a week, or at least once a week. That becomes part of my forward casting into how I can expect price to act and how I will interact with it. Because I'm building a library of information that stays in context. You're not going to get that out of TraderView. You're not going to get that out of a narrative. You'll never pluck that little nugget out of your narrative. Never. But when you can come back and go, this was my context, here were my findings, and then here's how I specifically trade it, you will gather that quickly. And that brings us to this last piece of the workflow. What am I doing here? Well, all I'm doing is talking about what the trade did, the name of the trade setup, and then any relevant particulars. Now, for me, the time of day is really important. What it was testing is important. Whether or not it created a pivot is important. Those are things important to me. And then I track the risk, the outcome, and then how long it took to get the outcome, and then specifically where. Okay? Because those are diagnostic pieces of information that I can use forward and over and over and over again. You don't need to see 300 trades. If you see 10 trades in a row and you keep seeing the same thing, that with 1 point of risk, within 10 minutes you're getting stopped at a rejection block or whatever your support and resistance names are, you'll stop immediately, because your data model has already taught you there's something not right in that. You don't have to keep taking that trade. You don't need 20 trades worth of data to know that. There's enough contextual information and logic arranged that allows you to diagnose that quickly. and start to investigate it. And then that's it. Then at the end of the day, I do the same thing, but I copy this here and bring it down to the end, and I just give the full the filled in data. So when this is the pre-market, and then I give the filled in data and then show what happened. So then in 10 minutes or less, I can review everything that happened, not only how I prepped, how I interacted with it, what trades I took, what specific setups I took, and then also how it turned out for me. And my ability to just pull these documents over, by the way, I'm holding control. That way it just makes a copy of that. I can just pull them over, make a few notes. I can highlight a specific area. I can go, oh, that was interesting. I really didn't mean to do that, actually. There you go. This area I thought would be interesting. Turns out that it was only, but from a premium standpoint. So I needed to have been a seller way up here in order to get to be part of the move. So this is really how you use this. And that's just from a daily standpoint. In addition to that, you also have these other things, your process steps. You can get really tight on the kinds of things that you expect and when you expect them. That's what I did. Here's my intraday model. Here's what I care about. What is the narrative? Where are we drawing? What evidence supports the idea? Then I built a table that says, well, at 8:30 and 9:30, but not pre-8:30, I am looking for a 15-minute location to show me an order block or a fair value gap. I'm looking for a breaker, and then I'm looking for a high time frame target. And if I see that at that time frame, I can take that trade at 8:30, 9:30, 1:30, or 3. If I see this sequence, I can take it. And that's validated that trade's good for me. Part of my process, and I visualized it with a little bit of narrative. So if I ever forget what my plan and my process was, I can always come back to it. Finally, as I start to see other things in the market, I go, well, I've seen this behavior several times. You can see here, this was the day I learned about inducement. See what happened? I thought, well, look at this big move down. Of course, we want to short. And the market kept giving me opportunities to short, and it kept running me over. And what was it doing? Just wanted to get past here. And then as soon as it did, it ran down, gave us a trade, and then reversed. And then how do you know? And part of my process was just being able to diagnose that as it's happening. Because when you're a trader and you miss here, and then you miss here, and then you take the wrong trade here, then you're getting stopped all the way up. And that is so common. That happened to me. I did that. Yep. Because my process didn't reveal this to me. It didn't see this to me. It just treated this area. As essentially the same as this area. Meaning that what I thought had happened before will continue to happen in the future. And I had no way to falsify that. So this taught me that, and that gave me the ability to see that over and over and over again. Cog programming is just the ability to say, here's what I want, and here's the cost of it, and being neutral about it. So I'm saying, look, I want these things. They may or may not be good for me. So I want to map the cost of something I desire. I've left you an ideal day example, which says, here's what it should look like if you've done it correctly. And then the weekly and monthly notes. So being able to review all of this without losing contact with the context that you've built for yourself becomes easy. So you can review this and you start to see patterns of behavior. And that's what's really neat about this. Because a lot of times we will make judgments about our behavior and we'll say, well, this is really terrible. I'm a bad trader. I'm a bad person. Or I'm a good trader. I'm a good person. I'm really good at this. And really, those are just emotional responses to outcomes. We don't want that. We really want to be able to put together the consistent behavior based on the process. What can you observe about the operator when the process is extraordinarily consistent? And that's what you're looking for. So one final comment here. How do I integrate this? How do you integrate this with other tracking mechanisms? Well, it's my opinion that this is your main way of keeping track of your context and your milestone development. When you want to do narrative or you need to do journaling or you want to track statistics, all you need is a date reference. So give yourself a date reference, upload that stuff into a table, and don't look back at it again. Don't even bother with it. All of your context framing should be here. Your milestone development will be here. If that reduces your use on Notion or some of those other tools, okay, give it a week, give it 2 weeks, and tell me if you don't feel a much stronger mental connection with the work you're doing here, then those areas. And if you don't, stick with it. I mean, stick with the tool that works for you. But that's really what this is for. So I hope this was helpful in getting you started on the trade challenge log. And my view here is give this 90 days and then look back and give yourself a week to really absorb 90 days worth of data. And tell me if you haven't made extraordinary progress on the limitations you once faced and the opportunities that are now before you. With that, I'm going to turn it back to you. Good luck. Good trading. Take care of yourself.